So I wake up this morning and I hear the news that Petro Poroshenko, the former president of Ukraine, has been detained at the border with Poland. He drove out there in his car and he's been detained, and his status is a little bit ambiguous as to what's going to happen to him. And there are a lot of rumors going around that he was trying to flee the country one step ahead of being arrested. Arrested for, like I said yesterday, the situation, the political situation in Ukraine is starting to collapse. It's starting to collapse, and we're going to see more and more chaos. There's also word that, rumor at this point, but there's rumors that in Kiev, a whole bunch of military officers have been detained. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the political situation is starting to deteriorate. The people around Zelensky, not Zelensky himself, I always want to emphasize this, he's just an actor, a literal actor. He doesn't really understand what's going on. He's got other people who are really stage managing him, no different than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a senile old man. The people around him, behind him, they're puppeteering him. And he's just saying whatever they want him to say. The only problem with Joe Biden, of course, is that because he's senile, and this happens with a lot of elderly people, anything that he hears in confidence, he automatically says it out loud in the most inopportune times. Any of you who've ever had like a senile relative will know what I'm talking about. You tell them a deep, dark secret, and they'll spew it out in the middle of Sunday dinner. That's why, Joe Biden keeps saying stuff like, we are going to defend Taiwan, and we're going to go to war with China, and all kinds of stupid things. Even if they really had that intention, they shouldn't have said it. But anyway, I'm straying from the point. Zelensky, like Biden, has people who tell him what to do, what to say, where to go, how to smile, everything, because he's an actor. Now, these people around him are all neo-Nazi crazies. I mean, they are. They're just, they're off their goddamn rocker. I think that we're just about done here. Okay, so anyway, a little bit for luck. Anyway, the point is that they are starting to panic. And as they panic, and as it gets worse, and as the situation deteriorates, you're going to see more insanity. What's also interesting, too, is that all the Western commentariat, the open source intelligence quote unquote community, who are just a bunch of fucking morons, right? They're starting to freak out too, because they realize that the military situation is deteriorating and there is no way to hide it. They're going on and on and on about how the Russians have brought in a bunch of old tanks. I think they're T-55s. I don't know what the gear is, the numbers exactly, so you're going to have to forgive me if I use the wrong number. I think it's T-50s or 55s. Anyway, these old tanks are supposed to be like 50 years old. The Russians are bringing them in, and everybody's saying that, that shows that the Russians, they've run out of modern-day tanks. And I was thinking, that must be the case, until it was pointed out to me by a really excellent channel that I suggest you watch called Military Summary. It's got under 10,000 subscribers at this point, but it's going to get a hell of a lot more because it's really good. Military Summary. This guy pointed out in a video he posted yesterday, at the very start, he said, look, you've got a huge territory like Ukraine. It's huge, right? It's, like everybody says, about the size of Texas. You have captured roughly between, a fifth and a quarter of new territory there. Mm-hmm. And so you have to, peacekeep it. And so how do you do that? Do you use your best equipment to do like the standard patrols and stuff? No. You use old equipment that is not really necessary on the battlefield, but is very useful for a peacekeeping mission, for an occupation mission. I mean, call it what you will. You want to call it peacekeeping, you want to call it occupation, you want to call it whatever. That's what they're doing. They're basically imposing military control, but you wouldn't want to impose military control with your best equipment in some little crossroad in the country, in the middle of nowhere, way behind the front lines, right? And so Military Summary was pointing out that that's what they're doing. some other OSINT bros are showing video of these elderly tanks supposedly going through Ukraine, and they're mocking it, right? But it turns out that the footage that they're using is actually from a tank museum. This is actually kind of cool because in Moscow, apparently, outside of Moscow, there's a tank museum that has all these old tanks, and you can take a ride on them, and you can drive these tanks. I'm going to do that. That sounds way cool, to drive an actual tank, and it's just like a ride, okay? It's trivial, but they're using that footage to prove, this non-proof. Why am I bringing this up? Well, it's because these people are getting desperate because they know the situation is up. Petro Poroshenko, the rumored arrest of these military officers who may or may not have been planning a coup d'etat, but at least the people who arrested them were afraid that they were planning a coup d'etat. The fact that Western observers, military observers, are reaching so hard, and they're coming up with all kinds of nonsense, up to and including using footage of an amusement park, essentially amusement park. That's what we're talking about here, right? They're losing their minds because they know that they're losing, basically. And this is what happens when you start to lose. You start to lose your mind, especially if you're like fully committed or your future life depends on winning and you're losing, see? So that's why my fear is that as it becomes increasingly clear that the Zelensky regime is losing catastrophically, that they're going to start to do more and more insane shit. Because apparently Petro Poroshenko, and I forgot to put a little bit of this backstory before, Petro Poroshenko, he had been accused of all kinds of nefarious acts, and that's why apparently he was fleeing the country. Mm-hmm. And he was basically fleeing it one step ahead of getting into very serious trouble, up to and including being executed. After all, the SBU has been known to execute politicians that it doesn't like. Mm-hmm. Be that as it may. The situation is deteriorating. The situation is rapidly deteriorating on the military front. And like I've said many times, when it collapses all at once into total chaos. Okay? Now, you should be aware of this. And the interesting thing here is that the people outside of Ukraine in the commentariat have put so many of their emotional and psychological chips on the outcome of this conflict that they're going to lose their minds too. Okay? I mean, this is something that you should be aware of, that the people outside, the people who are pushing the narrative, they're going to go equally crazy as the crazies around the Zelensky regime are. Because, the crazies in the Zelensky regime, they're going to be afraid for their lives. But the people in the West, they're going to be afraid because they're going to be made to look like fools. And people in those positions, the thing that they hate the most is to be shown up to be a fool. And they're going to be shown to be fools. And so all kinds of insanity, lies, doubling down on lies is going to start to take place outside of Ukraine. Inside of Ukraine, it's going to get fucking ugly. That's for sure. Up to and including all kinds of crazy-ass units running around, rounding up enemies of Ukraine and shit like that. And I might be one of them, man. So I'm laughing, but I'm kind of like, holy shit, man. A very bad tidal wave. A red tide is coming my way. Yeah, the red tide is coming, okay?